Hello, this is Cash and Scott, and today what we have here is Scott's our head technician, and we are going to go over the installation as on the Revolution fork positioner kit. Now, to install this, you have to have a fourth valve on your forklift. This is factory installed, up, down, side shift, and the fourth valve that he's using right there. And you can very quickly see if you've got a fourth valve plumbed is if you have four hoses that run down into the hydraulics down at the bottom there. So Scott has installed this, but we're going to go over some tricks and some tips to help us understand how to do this. So Scott, first of all, let's go over how you prepare the forks compared to just a normal set of forks that would, oh, this has a fork positioner stuff. So what would we do?
Normal forks have the lock pin on them here on the top of the fork to lock it down into position.
See there, you heard that clip in.
And that locks it into position. We'll have to remove those to put the positioner on. So we'll pull the lock up on it, slide the fork over to the center. Down here on the bottom rail, there'd be a gap. You need to get the lower part of the fork into that gap, lift up the tip, and then slide it back to get the fork off.
Now, once you remove that pin, they're going to go in these slots, and the hydraulics will move the fork left in and out, and so you do not want a lock pin. So they're going to need to be removed like this. Okay, Scott, what's this right here?
That's just a piece of shim. We'll get into that later.
Okay, all right.
Drop the fork off. Goes all the way forward. Lower it down. That's the end of the way from it.
All right. So what Scott is demonstrating is that you don't want to be lifting those off. You want let the forklift do the work for you so that they can be removed. And you can see you have that pocket there that they will go out of.
Once you have your forks off, you want to get a little center punch. It's got a pin in it. You'll knock the pin out. You just drive the pin out, and the lock pins come out. You can discard your lock pins or save them for later.
Okay. So where's that lock pin on there? Just point to it.
It goes right into this here. Runs into the cap, and then it goes through there into that hole.
So as
That's
soon
how
as
you put them back together.
So as soon as you take that out, it will
The bottom part will fall out. Yes.
You're good to go.
Yes.
All right.
Then your forks are ready to go back on.
So yeah, once we get everything installed. Okay. So
Next step would be remove your top 3 bolts on both sides on your load backrest. You loosen your bottom one, but when you do this, make sure your carriage is down.
So when he says the carriage, he's talking about this right here. This is the carriage. So he's going to be removing the top 2 and that one right above the bottom.
You'll put it in down position, you'll remove these 2 and this one, loosen this one on both sides. When you do that, this whole load backrest will fall forward. That will give access to your mounting holes for your Revolution side shift.
So where are the mounting holes?
The mounting holes, there'll be one here and one underneath, but they'll be coming through on this rail.
So they're going to be coming from the outside
Yes.
into.
You need to get this out of the way, and they mount from the outside into the position.
Okay. And is anything different on this side,
No,
or
both sides are the same.
So they're going to come with bolts that are supplied.
Yes.
That they're going to be flush in there, and then you're able to, once it's bolted in, you're able to re-level that.
Yes. Pull it back up. And
Pull it
your
back
bolt
up.
in.
Okay.
To get your side shift in, you'll probably have to take off one on the side that's got an adjuster for your position. Loosen the lock nut and pull the screw out. You'll see it's like a carburetor screw. It'll have a tip on it for adjustment. You just remove that, put your stuff together, and then put that back in.
Wait, I'm confused. What is that? Why would you, what?
It's an adjustment pin, and it's in the way for coming through to get this in all the way. So you have to remove that to get the revolution into place and then put it back in. Very simple. 1/2" wrench. Pop it loose. Get a screwdriver. And just remove the valve.
So when you're installing the revolution kit,
This piece needs to come out.
that piece needs to go out because it will not slide in.
Exactly. It will not slide between the carriage rails. You take this out, you put your revolution in, then you put this back in.
And what is that bolt for? Is it for safety? Is it the hydraulic?
It's an adjustment for your hydraulics,
What does it adjust?
your pressure,
How do you adjust the pressure with that?
by loop in and out. Just threading it in or out will adjust the pressure. They're normally set right at 3 turns. You bottom it clear down, put it at back it out 3 turns, and then lock your nut back down.
And then lock your nut back
Yep,
in there.
then lock your nut down, and you're set. The only-
What if they get the pressure wrong? How will they know what the right pressure is?
Just adjust both sides the same.
Adjust both sides.
Yes, there's one on each side. I have them set at 3 turns. I run them all the way in and back it out 3 turns and lock it down.
Back it out 3 turns and lock
Yes.
it down. Okay.
And that gives pretty much even pressure with your forks in and out.
So if the pressure's off on these valves, what happens if it's wrong for how can you
move faster than the other?
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So you will see that this or that one will move at a different speed. So to get them to move at the same speed, you want to be adjusting these valves so that, because one, so it doesn't shoot out while this one's going slow, that will determine the speed that they close or open. And you're trying to marry those speeds, correct?
Correct.
All right.
When you're assembling, put your revolution in place, you bolt it in on one side. You look at your other side and see if there's a gap. The kit comes with shims. If there's a gap in there, you may use 1 shim, you may use 3 shims. You have to put all 4 in. You want to put the shims in there to make it tight.
Okay. So even though this is a Cascade, and this is a Cascade carriage, there are some deviations between sizes on the carriages within what, 1/2 inch, 1/4 of an inch?
No, you're talking maybe 10 thousandths, 15 thousandths.
Okay,
It's
so
small
very
variation.
small,
It's
small
small, yeah.
variations. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a small gap here. We got 3 shims on this one I was able to get in. And as you can see, the shims are real thin.
Why do I see hydraulic
You
fluid
just
going
sit
down there?
there.
Is that because
we
you
just
pulled
had
out that bolt?
We had
Okay.
that
All
valve
right.
out that leaked a little bit of fluid. That's common. After you get it bolted into place, well, before you bolt it in place, I should say, we've got this hose that needs to come off.
So that is a factory
This is
hose.
a factory hose, and it sits in here. It'll sit there, and on the backside, it just bolts itself right in together.
So that hose is just being like a dead hose that's capping
That's from
off.
the factory. It keeps from blowing oil if you hit the 4th function when you're driving.
Oh, okay. So
That
that's
just recirculates the oil back into the valve. It keeps from blowing oil out.
okay.
That's all it is a recirculator. So we'll need to remove that. You'll get a set of hoses. I've got them marked A and B.
So what? Let's measure that. So that they know exact. Okay. So you see the size differences.
This is the hose
Okay.
that will be discarded.
Discarded hose. All right.
Your B hose is your short one. Your A hose will be your long one. I've got your B hose running from the back fitting here on the back side. Runs around, back up into here. You can see I've got it marked B up here.
Okay. So there's your B. Now I see it running
You
down,
make a loop around and back up.
and it's your second one in there.
Right, it's
So
the back
here's your
one.
A is your first. There's your B.
Your A you put in second because it's out front.
Right.
You make your same loop, you run it around a double loop on the other side, and it comes back into this side of the valve.
You're talking about the A one.
Yes.
So the A one, the longest hose.
Right.
It goes up, it goes
It'll
around.
run up, around, and back into itself. So basically it'll be like that.
So okay, you've got your A hose. Is it going into this first connector right here?
No.
Where did it go?
Coming out of here,
Yeah.
up and around, and back into here, onto the side shift itself, or the positioner itself. It'll be this hose here,
I can't see it. Okay, so it's
running underneath.
running underneath.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's pretty self-explanatory. There's a cap on
So
the
where's
fitting
this
there and
this
there.
hose?
That's on the forklift.
That's
that you
okay.
won't mess with
This
either one of
hose
these.
down here,
Those you
it's
don't
not
mess with.
indicated. This goes to your side shift.
Right.
All right.
Those you won't
so,
have to mess with.
All right. All right. So the only hoses you're going to be messing with is A, B,
Yes.
front and back.
Yes.
All right. And then up on top, he's got the B right there for the short hose. The A, once again, it's right underneath here. I can feel it. But see there?
It's tough to see, but it's in there.
It's tough to see. Okay.
Those
Now-
are your hookups.
All right, so once you're hooking up hydraulics, is it okay to have this lifted up off the ground?
Yes.
Because you're going to have hydraulic pressure.
Yes, your hydraulic pressure will all be right in here. It won't go anywhere.
So when you can you just undo these hoses and it's not going to blow? What? How do I?
Initially, yes, you'll have a little bit of spill out of the hose when you unhook it.
So
It'll just be whatever's in the hose.
whatever's in the hose.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a valve cutting off that.
Yeah, it won't leak all over the floor. It'll just put a little puddle.
Okay, all right. And then they can refill that. Where would they refill? You know, whatever.
That would be your normal hydraulic tank. You're not going to lose enough to where you need to refill it. It's underneath your hood here.
Okay, there's underneath the hood
Yeah,
there. There's
you've
a
got
big
your
thing,
hydraulic
and
tank.
so refilling's not a big thing, but if for something happens, you know that it can just refill the same amount, and there's a dipstick that shows you the levels, correct? So when you're measuring the levels of your hydraulic fluid, should this be down?
Down.
Should there be no pressure?
All your cylinders should be collapsed.
All your cylinders should be collapsed. You don't want stuff up and
That
and
puts all
whatnot.
the oil into your tank. That makes you.
Does
your tank-
temperature cause any problems? Because we've got this Arctic cold coming in here over the weekend.
Yes and no. It'll thicken up your coolant or your oil a little bit and make it run a little bit slower until it warms up. If it's hot, it really won't have much effect on it, but the cold will slow it down a little bit.
Okay, so if you see differences or slowing, it will increase the viscosity of that hydraulic fluid, but it shouldn't really affect anything on the installation.
Correct.
Okay, so we've bolted in those two hoses. That's the discarded hose.
Right.
Do you need to keep that hose for the future? Is it?
That would be up to the individual.
But there's no
Really
no
use
reason.
for it other than to capping that back off if you ever want to take it back off.
Okay, so if they're never going to take it back off, you can
Yeah, you can
really
just
throw away that hose. Let's see here. What else?
Once you're back into this
Yep.
spot,
What's our next step?
our next step would be to separate these. They've got Allen head bolts here that we'll take out.
Does it come with an Allen key?
No, it does not.
Okay, so you got to go to Harbor Freight and get your own
You'll
Allen
have to
set.
have your tools, yes.
All right.
These will come out.
You can't do this with a Swiss Army knife.
No.
All right.
Loosen those up, you'll get your pin, your connectors coming off, your caps. There'll be one on both sides.
So we do not thread the bolts in from this side, even though I see that it's it's an open thread. You bolt in from that side and tighten it down.
The way it's designed, it's got through bolts. If you have a shorter or narrower fork this way, you can flip it over and it gives you a narrower pocket.
Oh, okay.
Or
All
you
right.
flip it that way and you've got your wider pocket.
Ah, I did not know that.
That's all that is. So we've got the caps off. Set those aside for now.
All right.
And we'll go ahead and lower things down.
So Scott's gonna actually install the forks as a one-man operation. I've offered to help in the past, but Scott says I just cause problems.
Slide those in against the rail.
So tell me what you're doing there. There's a couple little tricks here. I see that this is tilted forward.
Exactly.
Why are you tilting that forward,
Tilt
Scott?
it forward to make this hook catch under here. You need this lip to catch underneath the lip of your fork.
Okay.
You tilt it forward, it slants this up forward, it'll push the forks as it raises. Push the forks down and catch under that. And it'll pick the forks up.
All right.
That way you don't have to pick them up and put them on by hand.
So there he goes. And then he straightened that back out. So he tilted, picked it up, kicked it back so it's level. Now he's going to try and put that into the pockets.
Slide this one over, drop it down. You see how it dropped into the pocket?
See, that end piece has to be totally removed to slide these forks into the pocket.
Slides in against there.
Now, while he's doing that, your important area of lubrication would be
Across the front of your rail here, up into here.
okay. So he pointed out here. I didn't know if I got it on camera. Down there.
Down here across the front, run a strip of grease, and then a strip of grease up in the top here. Then you'll have your normal greasing points on here, which will be in your manual.
See, that's like a greasing point for the side shift
Yeah.
because it's an integral side shift.
That's what these are. You'll
Got
have
on
them down
both
here
sides.
you'll have them down here on the end of these pockets where the forks are hooked on.
Okay.
There'll be grease zerks on there.
There we go. You've got a grease zerk right back here on the fork so that it will be able to slide along that beam.
And then we'll just take our stops and put them back in. The bolts lined up.
Scott, what is from start to finish, from a packaged Revolution kit to you being completely done for somebody who's done it before versus somebody who's going to be doing it the first time? What is the general?
I would, if I was the first time doing it, I'd allow a couple hours to do it.
Okay.
I could do it in probably an hour.
So for me, it would be 4 hours.
Right.
2 trips to Harbor Freight to get the right tools. And,
Yeah.
all right, maybe 6. But for the average guy, should be able to do it in 2 to 3.
Yeah, like I said, I could throw one on in about an hour if I'm in a hurry. And I have all the hoses and stuff to make.
So that's the other thing. When these Revolution kits come in, they do not have the hoses that are made for the to integrate into your valving. So, Scott, how do you get the hoses? Where do you go? What do you do?
I go to a place called Hoses and Rubber. It's a hose shop. They manufacture hoses. And you have to get your right size fittings, the dimensions on your fittings, and you need length on your hoses.
And if somebody didn't know that, they didn't know they would just, so basically it's kind of a
guessing game.
Right.
I've done enough of these. I know what size hoses I need on them. I know I need a 15 or a 17 and a 27-inch hose with the number 3 and a number 4 fitting.
So that could be a real stumbling point for somebody. So what we actually do is we supply the customer. This is LaHunta Mills and Elevator Mills. They're a feed producer down in LaHunta, Colorado, and they run a fleet of these Hangchas. It's Nissan, Okamura transmission, and they love these forklifts. But they're going to be installing one of these on their own, and the real mystery key factor is making sure that we're giving them the right hoses that we go out and we get where these Revolution kits don't come with it. So if you ever order one or buy one, just remember that the hoses are going to be a whole separate ball game. So he's doing some grease zerks.
Grease across the front of the carriage here. Just a little bit by your finger. Or with a rag or whatever. And then we'll put it up here in the rail. Just slide points.
Now, is that just bearing grease?
Yes. Any type of grease, any type of slide. And that is pretty much your install.
All right, can we show it working, Scott?
So you have the sight shift seal.
So all of the hydraulics, including the opening and closing, they're speed sensitive to pulling on the lever. So fast, slow, and that's why you want to make sure that those are appropriately adjusted. What he was saying, 3 turns out, then locked down from there. So. Anything else, Scott?
That's pretty much the install.
Okay. All right. This is Scott and Cash. This is for the install of the Revolution Cascade fork positioning kit. General price in January 2025 is about $2,000. So, all right. Thank you.